What's the most insulting benefit a job has offered you? Story 1. You ever have your job try to hype you up for a benefit that was actually worse than what anyone off the street could get? That's exactly what happened at one of my old workplaces. Management called this massive company-wide meeting. Projectors, handouts, the works. They were beaming as they unveiled their big announcement, a partnership with a gas station chain. Employees would get a discount on fuel. Everyone cheered at first, and even I felt a little optimistic. But then I checked the details. Turns out the exclusive discount was less than what anyone could get by signing up for the station's loyalty program online. Yep, after months of negotiations, they handed us a deal worse than the one that came with a free gas card. It was so laughably bad that even our supervisors stopped bringing it up. To this day, I wonder how nobody in management saw how insulting that was. They really thought we'd feel special paying more than Joe Random who filled out a form online. Story 2. A first day behind the bar started as usual, a little nervous yet very eager to be on the way taking a test drive. The night shift manager gave all his usual guidelines. Stay alert, keep the bar clean, and satisfy the customers. Everything was under lapping track until it's time for the 2 staff who were supposed to take over my shift to walk out. Panic descended on my manager. Not bothering to even call someone in, he turned to me with great pleading eyes. "Can you cover their shifts? Just this once?" I wasn't elated over it. However, I didn't want to make a bad reputation on my first day, so I agreed. 1 shift turned into 3. I worked all night, then into the morning, and then into the next afternoon without a break. Bustling with customers, and by the end of it all, my legs felt like they had run a marathon. I could barely keep them open when I finally clocked out after 23 hours on my feet. The next day, I found myself inside his office with that grin on his face. The manager, "I just wanted you to know exactly how much we appreciated what you did last night." He added, "I'd thought maybe it would be a bonus or at least a voucher for food. Anything for what I'd been through, but he handed me a bottle of liquor. Well, not a bottle, actually only half of one. It had a curling label, and the seal had been broken long ago. I stood there aghast. "This is for you," he proudly announced. "Just a little way to say thanks." I didn't know what to say. Was he serious? Did he think this made up for the utter lack of support, the fatigue, or the hours I would never get back? I walked out of his office without a word, into my house, and dumped the bottle in the bin. I resigned 2 weeks later. No work worth that disrespect. Story 3. Back when I worked at an Amazon warehouse, management was always talking about how we were the most efficient team in the country. During peak season, they said we broke records on some metric, and the whole warehouse would be getting a prize. Months passed, and someone finally asked about it on the suggestion board. They responded with, "It's on its way." The prize? One of the robots that delivers shelves to our workstations got autographed by Jeff Bezos. He didn't even show up to do it in person. They slapped a sticker with his signature on a random robot and called it a day. It's not like anyone ever used the prize either. The robot didn't stop to let you admire it. It just rolled by while you picked items as fast as possible. I think they genuinely expected us to feel motivated by seeing Bezos's name zoom past us on a machine. Instead, it just made the already dystopian environment feel a little bleaker. It was a new low in a place full of them. Story 4. At one of my temp jobs, they announced a special lunch to thank the team for all our hard work. They made a huge deal about it, calling it a BLT day, and encouraging everyone to come with their appetites. Well, when the day arrived, the cafeteria served us the saddest sandwiches I've ever seen. The bacon was that cheap, pre-cooked stuff you microwave. The lettuce was a single limp leaf, the tomato was paper-thin, and the bread was cheap and stale. To top it off, they slathered on the thinnest layer of generic mayo, just enough to make the bread soggy. People were understandably pissed, but management seemed genuinely shocked. "Why are you upset? We gave you lunch." They clearly didn't understand how insulting it is to hype up something so mediocre, especially when you're struggling to pay bills on their crappy wages. The BLT day became a running joke, but honestly, I think it killed whatever morale was left in that place. Story 5. When my company announced that they had negotiated for a special employee benefit, I found myself rather hopeful. In fact, this place had few benefits, and management had touted this for weeks. It even got to an all-hands meeting and showed the graphics with this guy from corporate grinning like he just solved world hunger. "We have partnered with a major gas station chain," he averred. "All employees will now get an exclusive discount on fuel." The room erupted in polite applause, and I almost joined in. Gas prices were insane at the time, so even a little helped. But something at the back of my mind said, wait and see. After the meeting, I checked out the fine print on it, and that's when I discovered just how ludicrous this perk really was. The discount they had arranged was lower than what you could get just from signing up to the gas station's free rewards program. I kid you not. Any person with a valid email address could just come into the station, apply, and save above what the company was offering us as an exclusive deal. I couldn't believe it. Spent months setting up a benefit, worse than really anyone could possibly get for free. I took it to HR, and their response was, "Well, it's still a benefit." Well, technically it was, but the message was completely clear. They just didn't care enough to give us anything of value. Just wanted to look good on paper. From then on, every time management mentioned the gas discount in meetings, it became a running joke among employees. "Don't forget to claim your exclusive worse-than-free discount," someone would whisper, and we'd all try not to laugh. Well, it wasn't funny, really. It was insulting. But in a place like that, sometimes humor is all you have to keep yourself sane. Story 6. At one office job, they bragged about offering flexible work hours during my interview. It sounded great. I'm a morning person, so I planned to get in early and leave early to beat the rush hour traffic. But once I started, I learned flexibility didn't really mean what I thought it did. Sure, I could show up at 7 a.m., but the second I clocked out before 5 p.m., everyone would start whispering, "Leaving early, huh?" My boss actually pulled me aside once and said, "We've noticed you're not around during the afternoon." I had to remind him that I worked the same 8 hours as everyone else, just earlier. Meanwhile, nobody noticed when I came in at the crack of dawn to finish projects before deadlines. It didn't matter. The company had this weird obsession with appearances. You could work yourself to the bone, but if you weren't visibly at your desk during core hours, you were a slacker. That's when I realized their version of flexibility was just another trap to squeeze more out of us. Story 7. I used to work in quality control at an automotive plant. A tough job, but I took pride in catching defects before they reached customers. One year, we won a prestigious J.D. Power Award for quality, which was a huge deal in the industry. The office staff got thousands in bonuses and Rolex watches as a reward. My department? We got waxy chocolates shaped like the J.D. Power trophy, about the size of my palm. That was it. I remember standing there holding that piece of chocolate while one of the managers said we should be grateful for the recognition. Grateful? For a candy bar that probably cost less than the ribbon tied around it? I threw mine in the trash on the spot and told them I wouldn't be around much longer. The kicker? They acted like I was being ungrateful for not worshiping their pathetic token. That chocolate bar summed up how little they valued the people doing the actual work. Story 8. Working in an Amazon warehouse was never going to be glamorous, but I didn't expect it to feel quite so dystopian. The environment was already soul-crushing. Constant pressure to hit insane quotas, timed bathroom breaks, and a manager who acted like he was auditioning for a role as a prison warden. But the day they unveiled our prize for breaking a company-wide efficiency record, that's when I truly understood what kind of place I was working in. During peak season, we were told we had set a new benchmark for speed and productivity. Management congratulated us over the loudspeaker and said a special reward was coming our way. People started speculating, maybe a bonus, a catered lunch, even a t-shirt would have been nice. Months later, someone asked about the prize on the suggestion board. Management responded that it was on its way. Then, one day, there it was, a robot. Not just any robot, though. It was one of the orange Kiva bots that delivered shelves to our workstations. And on it, an autograph from Jeff Bezos. Well, not really. It was a printed sticker of his signature slapped on the side. He didn't even come to the warehouse in person to deliver it. The best part? The robot didn't stop or slow down for anyone to admire. It zipped past us while we continued picking items as fast as possible. If you weren't paying attention, you might not even notice it. And this was supposed to motivate us? Seeing Bezos's name streak by on a machine that literally delivered us more work? The whole thing was so absurd that it became a running gag. "Careful, don't slow down or Bezos will send another signed robot after you," someone joked. But deep down, it wasn't funny. It was just another reminder of how little they thought of us. They could have given us anything, but instead they chose a sticker on a machine, and they thought we'd be grateful. Story 9. At one of my old temp jobs, management decided to host a special lunch to show appreciation for all our hard work. They hyped it up for weeks, plastering signs in the break room about BLT Day and encouraging everyone to bring your appetite. I wasn't expecting much, but hey, free food is free food, right? On the big day, we all filed into the cafeteria to find the saddest sandwiches I've ever seen. Each one consisted of 2 slices of cheap, stale bread with a microscopic smear of mayo, a single limp leaf of lettuce, 1 thin slice of tomato, and 2 pieces of the most depressing pre-cooked bacon imaginable. You know, the kind that comes in a plastic pouch and tastes more like disappointment than pork. People were visibly angry. Some refused to eat. One guy threw his sandwich in the trash in front of a manager and stormed out. The kicker? The managers were genuinely baffled. "What's the problem? We gave you lunch." It was insulting on so many levels. Not only was the food trash, but the fact that they thought this was some grand gesture made it clear they had no idea how little we were paid or how hard we worked. That day, the phrase BLT Day became a running joke. Anytime management announced anything new, someone would whisper, "Oh great, is it BLT Day again?" It's funny now, but at the time, it was just another reminder that we were seen as expendable. Story 10. I worked at a factory once where they asked us to pull a ton of overtime to meet some overblown production promises they made to their clients. The hours were grueling, but we were promised a special treat as a thank you. After weeks of back-breaking shifts, they finally announced that ice cream trucks were coming to the plant. For a moment, it almost felt worth it. But on the day of the big surprise, the trucks were parked at the far end of the building near the corporate offices, a solid 15-minute walk from the production lines. Here's the kicker. Our break times weren't long enough to make the trek, grab the ice cream, and get back to work without risking a write-up. So, while the suits and desk workers leisurely enjoyed their free ice cream, the rest of us, who had actually done the extra hours, got nothing. The supervisors brushed it off, saying, "We tried, but there wasn't enough room to park the trucks closer." Yeah, sure. They could park forklifts and trucks full of supplies anywhere near the production floor, but not ice cream trucks? The whole thing left us fuming. The next time they asked for overtime, a bunch of people refused outright. That's when I learned my golden rule of the workplace: never trust a promise of free food from management. Story 11. When I worked at an Amazon warehouse, every shift felt like a grind. But the peak season was a different kind of hell. We were constantly reminded that we were the most efficient warehouse in the country, and how proud we should feel about it. Management teased us with a special reward for breaking records, something to show their appreciation. Months passed, and we didn't hear a thing. Eventually, someone asked about it on the suggestion board, and the response came back. It's on its way. Finally, one day they made the announcement. Our prize? One of the robots that deliver shelves to our workstations had been autographed by Jeff Bezos. Not in person, of course. They just slapped a sticker of his signature on the side of the bot and acted like it was some monumental honor. And no, we didn't even get to keep the robot. It just kept zipping past us as we worked, like a cruel joke. If you didn't look up at the right moment, you wouldn't even notice it. The message was clear. All our record-breaking hard work amounted to a sticker on a machine that brought us more work to do. It was so absurd we started calling it the Bezos bot, and making up ridiculous stories about it. But deep down, it stung. They could have handed out literally anything else: a water bottle, a t-shirt, a gift card, and it would have meant more than that stupid sticker. Story 12. I once worked for a software company that decided to hold department-specific appreciation events to boost morale. Sales got a wine and painting night. Development went axe throwing. Support, my department, got bowling. But here's the kicker. Our event wasn't during work hours like the others. Management said we were too critical to clients to take time off, so our bowling night was after hours and mandatory. I couldn't believe it. Not only did we have to give up an evening, but we didn't even have a choice. To make matters worse, the food was awful. Some dried-out pizza and stale chips. The managers didn't even bother to hide the fact that they'd had a catered lunch at the other events. They tried to spin it by saying our department was the most important, but actions speak louder than words. It felt like a slap in the face to be told we mattered more while being treated so much worse. The next day, nobody talked about how fun the event was because it wasn't. Instead, we complained about how management didn't understand why we were burnt out. I quit 6 months later. Story 13. A few years back, I worked in quality control at a major automotive plant. It wasn't glamorous, but I took pride in the work. One year, the company won a J.D. Power Award for quality, basically the Oscars for car manufacturing. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, especially since the office staff got thousands of dollars in bonuses and Rolex watches to celebrate. My department? We got a waxy chocolate bar shaped like the J.D. Power Trophy. No joke. It wasn't even good chocolate, just some cheap stuff with the logo stamped on it. I stood there holding it, staring at the little ribbon tied around it, wondering if this was supposed to be a joke. When I asked why we didn't get bonuses like the office staff, one of the managers said, "You should be grateful for the recognition." Grateful? For a piece of candy that probably cost less than the printer ink they used on the announcement flyers? That chocolate bar felt like a symbol of everything wrong with the place. How little they valued the people actually doing the work. I threw it in the trash and started looking for a new job. Story 14. I once worked at a large catering company that decided to throw an employee appreciation barbecue to boost morale. It sounded nice in theory: grilled food, music, games, but there was a catch. They needed volunteers to help run it, and by volunteers, they meant all the kitchen and service staff. Since I worked in the kitchen, that meant I spent the entire day grilling for the 300 employees who attended. While they laughed, ate, and played cornhole, we were sweating over the grill, slicing brisket, and plating food as fast as we could. The rest of the kitchen team didn't even get to step outside to grab a plate. We were too busy making sure everyone else had food. The cherry on top? Management made a big show of handing out leftover burgers to us at the end of the day as if they were doing us a favor. "Thanks for all your hard work," they said. Hard work? We missed the entire event. None of us felt appreciated. If anything, we felt more invisible than ever. They never even considered that we might want to participate in the celebration too. That was the day I realized that to management, we weren't employees. We were just the help. Story 15. One of the selling points of my last office job was flexible work hours. During the interview, the hiring manager explained that as long as we worked 8 hours a day, we could set our own schedules. It sounded perfect. I'm an early riser, so I planned to come in at 7 a.m. and leave at 3 p.m. that way. I'd miss rush hour and have time to enjoy my evenings. For the first week, everything was great. I was getting tons of work done before most people even showed up. But then the comments started. "Leaving early today?" one coworker would say with a smirk. Another would joke, "Half day, huh?" I tried explaining that I'd already worked a full 8 hours, but it didn't matter. The boss started pulling me into his office to discuss my attendance, despite me consistently finishing projects ahead of schedule. He told me, "It just doesn't look good when you're not here in the afternoon." Meanwhile, nobody noticed when I showed up at 7 a.m. or stayed late to meet deadlines. By the end of the month, I realized the flexibility they promised was just a facade. They didn't care about productivity, they cared about appearances. I ended up staying later just to avoid the comments, which defeated the whole purpose of the benefit. It was a valuable lesson. When management says flexible, what they really mean is, we'll judge you for not conforming to our unspoken rules. Story 16. I used to work at a mental health facility, a place with notoriously high turnover and morale issues. Management decided to throw an employee appreciation fair to lift everyone's spirits. They went all out. Free food, games, music, even a raffle. It could have been great, but as usual, they found a way to screw it up. First, they assigned the support staff, IT, maintenance, kitchen, to run the entire event. That meant we spent the day setting up booths, managing sound systems, and cooking instead of enjoying the party. Second, the clinical staff, who were supposed to benefit the most from the fair, couldn't leave their appointments to attend. The facility refused to cancel or reschedule patient visits, so the very people they were trying to appreciate spent the day working while the office staff had all the fun. I'll never forget hearing the laughter and music from outside while I sat in the server room trying to catch up on a day's worth of delayed tasks. The worst part? Management thought the event was a huge success. They even turned it into an annual tradition. Nobody had the guts to tell them that their morale booster made things worse for everyone involved. Story 17. I once worked at a Chinese tech company where the culture was all about working long hours for the good of the team. One night we were all staying late, again, trying to finish a big project. Around 9 p.m., a manager came in with a big grin and announced that we were all getting a special reward for our hard work. What was it, you ask? Ramen noodles, not a hot meal, not even a fancy bowl of ramen, just the kind you buy in a pack at the grocery store for 25 cents. He dropped a stack of them on the break room table like he was doing us some grand favor. Everyone stared in disbelief, but nobody said a word because pushing back wasn't exactly encouraged. Some people grabbed a pack just to shut him up, while others, like me, just sat there stewing. It wasn't about the noodles. It was about what they represented. We'd been working 14-hour days for weeks, and all they could give us was something that cost less than $1? That night, I started quietly sending out resumes. Story 18. Back when I worked at an automotive plant, the company won a J.D. Power Award for quality, which is a pretty big deal in the industry. Management was over the moon about it. The office staff got huge bonuses and Rolex watches as a reward. Meanwhile, my team in quality control, the ones who actually ensured the product met the standards to win the award, got chocolate. Not a gift card, not a bonus, just a single waxy piece of chocolate shaped like the J.D. Power trophy. It wasn't even good chocolate, just the cheap kind you find in the bargain bin after Valentine's Day. When they handed it out, the manager actually said, "We hope you feel appreciated." Appreciated? I felt like an afterthought. A few of us joked that they probably spent more on the ribbon tied around the chocolate than on the chocolate itself. It was insulting, plain and simple. I threw mine in the trash and started looking for a new job. Winning that award should have felt like a proud moment, but thanks to the way management handled it, all it did was highlight how little they valued the people doing the actual work.